Fanshawe, and welcome to EDI Talks. EDI Talks is a new series of informal discussions aimed at raising awareness about equity to certain topics in a safe, open space for folks to share their stories within the framework of creating inclusivity for the Fanshawe community. Today, we are in the beautifully newly created Galiwi Circle space in the Library Learning Commons. Galiwi is an Oneida word meaning good message, and we're hoping to bring some good messages here in our series of talks. EDI Talks is hosted by myself, Troy Townsend. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Anti-Racism and Inclusion Specialist at Fanshawe. EDI Talks will feature a different talking point each month. This month, October is recognized as Islamic History Month in Canada, and I've invited some members of Fanshawe's Islamic community to join today's discussion. Mo Sharifi, him, is a Muslim of Iranian descent and is faculty in language and liberal studies. Mo has an extensive background in anti-racism and equity work at Western and was himself a victim of a racially motivated attack in 2006. Mo will guide today's discussion with some thoughtful questions for our guests. To my immediate left is Memoona Hussain, she, her. As an Asian Canadian practicing Muslim and currently working in advanced services as a gift processing specialist, Memoona brings to our discussion a background working with newcomers to Canada. Subsequently, she has dealt with multiple systemic barriers, either indirectly or directly through her work. Ali Hawash, him, comes from a Palestinian background and moved to London 8 years ago. Ali is a support services officer for international recruitment and marketing development. He graduated from digital marketing in December 2020. Ali has experiences of oppression uniquely linked to his background that gives quite a special focus to today's discussion. Welcome, folks, and thank you so much for joining us today. Collectively, you are bringing to the discussion a very experienced lens, and I'm going to stop talking now and allow Mo to begin the conversation.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Memoona, for being here, for being part of this really important conversation in such an important time. It's just an honor to be here to share this space and this moment with you. I think it would be a good start to ask you if you could please share a little bit about yourself for our viewers and why you decided to be part of the EDI Talks in this moment.
Thank you for having me. Excuse me. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor to be here, especially in this beautiful room, as you said. So I'm a Fanshawe grad, as Troy mentioned. I graduated from digital marketing. I work here. I've been working at Fanshawe for a long time, almost 6 years. And I've been part of the London Islamic community the day I landed into London. It's the newcomer thing. As soon as they arrive to a new country, they start asking, where can I go pray? Where is the Friday prayers? Where can I get my halal food? All of this questions. So I start getting involved and start discovering that there is barriers, there are discrimination that sometimes you can't see it literally in your eye, but you can feel it. So I'm gonna stop talking now. I talk a lot. So just to hand it back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today, Troy, to start this very important discussion. I would like to say a few words about this place that we are sitting in today. The first time I came in, I got the same feeling that as if I'm entering into a mosque. It's just the connection that I felt at the very beginning, and it's very sacred connection that I feel. I have been here in the London community for over 2 decades now, and I've been working, and I'm a proud graduate of Fanshawe, of course, and working at Fanshawe for the past 7 years. Part of my interpretation and translation work, because I speak 3 languages, I'm a spoken language interpreter, and I'm also a certified translator in 2 of South Asia's most commonly known languages, Urdu and Punjabi. Through that work, I worked with multiple non-for-profit organizations here in London. And when I went out with clients, whether it was a healthcare sector, a legal appointment, or an Ontario Works office, I saw firsthand the difficulties beyond the language barrier that newcomers, especially when they are either immigrant or refugee, that they were facing. The unsaid biases that I have seen and encountered, and the limitations of my role that I couldn't advocate on their behalf, because in that moment my only role was to interpreter for them, word to word. That took a lot of toll personally, and I wanted to do something above and beyond that role. After becoming full-time at Fanshawe, I lost connection with that work of mine, which I felt that I got a lot of satisfaction and it was a true passion of mine. Until something recently, of course, the last year, horrific events, that it brought it up to the surface again. And I decided, and I said to myself that I can't be a silent partner in this anymore. I need to do my part. This is our community, this is our home, and we need to let everybody live in it happily, peacefully, and with harmony. So just in time, EDI Task Force developed here at Fanshawe, and I'm very proud to be a member of it. And I'm proud to be here today to hopefully talk about this and bring some awareness. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much. We're lucky to have you both, and it's the work that you do is, there's no way of thanking you enough. To build on that, as you both know, the Islamic history is thousands of years old, with its roots in an ancient culture and tradition. So I want to start with Memoona. Are you able to, could you please share with us a little bit about Islamic history in the context of Islamic culture and its importance for you?
Thank you. Islam is the second largest religion in the world right now after Christianity. It's about 1.8 billion followers. Although its roots go back further, most scholars agree the creation of Islam to the 7th century. It started in Mecca, the modern world Saudi Arabia today, in the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And it is to this day the youngest religion in the world if we look at the 7th century context. During the time of the Prophet Muhammad, the faith spread rapidly, and it is even to this date. Some important facts to me, or something that maybe the non-Muslim may not know, is the word Islam in itself means submission to the will of God, and the followers of the faith are known as Muslims. We believe as a practicing Muslim that nothing can happen without Allah's permission, but humans have free will to do whatever they would like.
Thank you so much. Beautifully said. Ali, how about you?
Well, I will add one thing on the top of what Memoona said. In Arabic, Islam, the word Islam comes from salam, which is, so linguistically speaking, in Arabic, the words come from each other, kind of like in English, prefix, suffix, and etc. So the word salam means peace. So in Islam, so the submission that Memoona was said is not the submission to the God by forcefully, just by how peaceful it would be possible. The other thing is in Islam, we always, wherever we go, the first word you would hear from two Muslims talking to each other, Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum means peace be upon you. So that's how we start the talk. The other thing that I would add that Memoona mentioned where Islam has started, and I will bring up a verse from the Holy Quran where it says, I'll say it in Arabic and then translate it, where it says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, which means, and we have sent you. So God is saying to Muhammad and his followers that we have sent you only to be, but as a mercy for the alameen, or the mankind and all the existings. So in this, we see that Islam is not only a religion that was for their followers, it was a religion for everybody. It puts on the Muslim community the rules how to treat others, regardless of their race, their color, their other religion. So, in reality, a lot of people, when I've seen it, some people here, they thought when I say I'm Muslim, they thought it is a race or it is a nationality. In reality, it's not, right? So it's a religion followed by billions of people overall, and we in Islam we have to respect each other. And in the context and the history of Islam, it was the duty of Muslims when they go wherever they go is to make sure that they rule this place in justice and being just even to non-Muslims. So I'll just bring up a small story before you move to your next question. Once one of the Prophet companions, there was an injustice action that happened, and he was the ruler back then. Honestly, I can't remember the name. I should have noted it down, but anyways. So there was a problem between a non-Muslim who was living in this land and the ruler. So he decided to take this ruler to the court, which nowadays it's not easy to take any ruler to the court, right? Or any person in power. But in reality, because this religion gives justice to people, so the court brought in the ruler, and in fact it asked the ruler to pay this non-Muslim individual who was living in this land because he was the right person and it was not the Muslim. So we can see from here how Islam is not about making other people Muslims only, but it's about giving justice to everyone on earth, whether it's a human being or even for animals.
Can I interject with a question here?
Yeah.
So based on something that you just said, Ali, you were saying that it is a religion only, it's not like a nationality or a race. So unlike the Jewish faith, for instance, where Jews, the Jewish community, it is a race of people by birth that's passed down like from your mother. If your mother's Jewish and you were born from that mother, then you're Jewish. So it's a race and a religion.
Mm-hmm.
So Islam is a religion only, and I just want to clarify that point.
So it is, I can't say exactly it's a religion only, because the Islam has been descending from generation to another. But in fact, in Islam, we don't look at people based on their race. That's what I meant.
Okay.
So, for example, no matter what race these people are coming from, they can become part of the Islamic community. If they want to become a Muslim, they can become a Muslim. It doesn't really matter what is their race. But the religion aspect of it, it's a religion that came on earth. So it made people from all races, if the rules of it was followed correctly, obviously, will help them live in a just world.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's a religion for all people.
Yes, basically.
Yes. I wanted to add something to that. It's a very good question. In the Western countries, Islam has been conflated with race.
Mm.
And so racism is directly, and Islamophobia is directly targeted and like aimed at Muslims. So that complication happened within the context of, colonialism and racism, which we might be talking a little more about it.
Yeah.
But before that, Ali, can I start with you? Because you were talking and I see the pride and
Yep.
the passion in your voice. What are some of the things that you're most proud of about your Islamic heritage, and what does being a Muslim mean to you?
Being Muslim, it's aside of all the things that I have to do for my religion as my duties to be a good Muslim. In fact, I have, beside of my prayers, my fasting, the Islamic culture or the Islamic religion has specific teachings that were brought to us either through the Holy Quran or through the Prophet's message.
Living example.
Yeah, living examples, and we have books written with this information. So in reality, it's all about being the good person for the people surrounding you, and providing to the community as much as you can. So that makes me proud, because circling back to what Memoona said earlier about working with the community and the discrimination that the Muslim would face in the Western world, especially after certain events in 2001. The Islamic community has always this strength, if I can say, to come together and to help each other no matter what's happening outside of their community. So what makes me proud of being a part of the Muslim community here in the Western world, that I always get involved with the Islamic community, and I see how supportive, how helpful they're for the newcomers, for the refugees that come from all around the world. Especially that unfortunately, that the most of the Islamic countries are living in unstabilized political and
most cases
geographical area.
Yeah.
So what makes me proud is no matter how things get bad, we always stand for each other. We always stand with each other. In addition, we don't just opt out from or just stay within our community without supporting other communities that we are part of. So for example, here in London, I can see that always whenever there is an Islamic thing going on, the Islamic community will come together. If there's other events or for
the broader community overall.
Yes, bringing the community all together. Just before we move, another thing that I'm proud of to be Muslim. So while speaking on discrimination and speaking on the endless discrimination that our world has been living in, so just believe it or not, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was the first things that he always worked on since he got his message was abolishing slavery, no matter of what's going on. So he always stood against the freedom of a human being. So that makes me very proud, and it gives me the charge on a daily basis that I have to fight for something which is right, making things right.
Thanks so much.
No
Yeah, this is great. And I love the fact that you mentioned the resilience of the Muslim community. It's time and again it's come out, and against all the odds, the Muslim community grows stronger.
Yeah.
And that's something to look up to. Thank you for it.
Actually, I'll add something else I forgot to mention about this part. So there we have a saying from the Prophet, peace be upon him, in Islam, that we all, as Muslims, should believe in this. So at the last days of before he passed away, he went to a pilgrimage, and he told the people following him on that day that, "O people, your Lord is one Lord, and your Father is Adam. There's no favor of an Arab and over a foreigner. No foreigner over an Arab, and neither white skin over black skin, nor black skin over white skin, except by what is right." So if this human is right, no matter of his color, of his origin, of his decency, where he came from, if he's right, then he's right. If he's wrong, then he's wrong.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
It was beautiful. Yes.
Can I just
Yes.
interject a point that I've thought of before we redirect to Memoona? Sorry.
It's okay.
So a number of years ago, I think it was back in 2015 or 2016, I was supporting some students through Hutton House Learning Center, where I worked with students with disabilities, and I had the chance to support someone that belonged to the London Mosque. And it was during, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is it Ramadan, where you fast during the day and then after sundown you have the meal? So the Muslim community gathered at the mosque on Oxford Street, opened their doors and provided a meal. And I don't think a lot of people in the London community know this, but the doors are also open to feed anybody outside of the Muslim community that needs a meal. And people were lined up to just have their meal every night during that holy week or that holy time, holy month.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. There's a kitchen both in Islamic Center of Southwestern Ontario, and there's one at the Oxford Street Mosque. As the community is growing big time, there's a newly one, believe, in Komoka. There's another one.
And there's another one on Hyde Park and Sarnia, which they have a kitchen too.
So the Friday prayers, they have a kitchen. Anybody can go and purchase a meal for a very minimum cost. Of course, that goes towards the programming. And especially during the month of Ramadan, because the entire teaching is that it teaches you patience, and the work of charity continues, and you become more closer as you're fasting to really understand the ones who are less fortunate and they can't afford a meal, and how you can help. So that's the idea behind it, of course.
That's right, and how generous. And I don't think a lot of people in the London community are aware of the generosity that's given year after year by the Muslim community. So I just think that's an important message to get out. And I will let you redirect the question.
I was just going to add to that what I'm really proud of the Islamic heritage is, first and above all, is the humanity. Not which religion you follow, which culture you come from, which language you speak. You need to be a good human first, to be a better person to another human and have this sense of belonging in that broader community that you are living in. The respect for elders, the idea of charity, continuous charity that you are giving from, if you are the person that are in a situation who can give. There is a thing called zakat, without going too much into details. That's basically the idea of, if you can afford it, you are always giving the money to the less fortunate in your community, taking care of the ones who are in need without even them coming to you or asking and looking for help. So those are some of the common, to me, it's a way of living, basically, that I practice every day, that I'm most proud of.
Absolutely. And I think ultimately, you said, just to practice being a better human, ultimately, that's what I think we are all here to do. And in having these discussions, we're realizing how more alike we are than unalike.
Than the differences, for sure. May I add something to that point as well? Thank you.
Yes.
What I'm most proud of as well is the, contrary to the belief, the women's right from the day one when Islam started. Women have the right to vote, either participating or as a voting member. Women have the right to start and run a business. Very first time in Islam, back in the 7th century when it first started, women have the right to choose whether or not they would like to work and how their earnings will be spent.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things that I take very core to my heart. Like, this is from day one, it's already there. It's not something that as women you have to fight for or ask for from your society. Just to give you an example of this by telling you, one of the oldest university in the world, in Fez, Morocco, was founded by a princess named Fatima al-Farahi back in 859 AD. And that was the university that granted the first degree. And I'm really proud of that fact.
Excellent. That's good to know. I did not know.
Actually, I have one more thing to add on what Memoona said. Something that probably women would be happy or proud of, and when being a Muslim, that when women work, it's their money, but when men work, it's their and their wife's money.
The family,
the
collective.
family, yeah, collective.
Yes.
No, I mean here like between a man and a wife. So a lot of women, they love this fact because they can work and they can keep their money for themselves, but the husband should be the giving person.
Yeah, my money is my money, yours is the family money.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
It works. Another topic that I think came up in, I think what you said, Ali. It was the horrific crime in last June against a Muslim family in London, and it just left every one of us in shock. And after that, we saw an increasing focus on an anti-Islamophobic lens in London and beyond, and it brought a huge problem into light. What do you think would be a good suggestion for our non-Muslim community members at Fanshawe and beyond to be able to support the anti-Islamophobic movement and to be good allies for us? Can I start with Memoona?
Thank you. A very simple thing that we can all do, whether we are Muslims or non-Muslim, whichever faith we practice, is get to know your neighbors, your co-workers, your students, your faculty. Learn about their background. And by background, I mean the language, the culture, or the race. Don't be afraid to ask questions. This is how you are going to learn, and we are going to become one community. And I see it that Fanshawe has grown, and we are very diverse to where we were at least even a decade ago. You see, just walking in the hallways, how many different races, ethnicities, languages we are representing, and not just in our student, faculty, sports staff, everywhere. And if we don't know where we are going forward as an institution, we will always be 2 steps back for the entire well-being of our bigger community. And we play a huge role in that. To me, it will be very important to just start that conversation and get to know the person who's either working beside you or sitting next to you in the classroom, or it's been either your professor right in front of you. Don't be afraid. Make a connection. That will be a very first and kind of a baby step in my understanding.
That's great. Yes, I agree. Bridging the gaps is a big first step in understanding each other and respecting each other's humanity. I believe that too. Ali, what do you think?
First of all, before answering the question, so honestly, I live 5 minutes away of where the incident happened for the Afzal family. And to be honest with you, my mom visited me 6 years ago, and when she went, she is a hijabi, so she wears a headscarf. And when she used to go out, and by the way, she doesn't speak English very well, so when she does her best, but sometimes like she can't communicate very well with people for whatever reason. But I always felt comfortable when she visited the first time. And now she's visiting again. When she tells me like I'm going out, I always have this idea at the back of my head: would someone harass her? Would someone start talking to her or doing whatever they want to do with her? Because I know it might not happen. Most probably it's not gonna happen. But after this specific incident, it added this dark side in at the back of my mind. So that which makes me uncomfortable. The other thing is answering your question how to or what to suggest for the non-Islamic members is first of all to stop being afraid of something. Is the first step would be is learning more about it. And my suggestion is if you want to read or watch about Islam or the Islamic communities all around the world and how they live, what they do, of course you're more than welcome to visit any of the Islamic communities here in London. But if you decided to watch, the only suggestion I would give you is don't watch the mainstream media, because honestly, like to be honest with you, they don't like us. They always tend to bring the bad news or the bad surface of the Islamic communities all over around the world. And I think Memoona covered a very great part. Ask questions, don't be shy. And even if any of our staff member, whoever it is at Fanshawe, wants to ask questions, you can always reach out to me. And I'm happy to answer the question. Even if I don't know, I'll work with you to find an answer for your questions.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I think we all agree that keeping an open mind and asking questions is never a bad thing. Sometimes people are afraid of even approaching, asking questions, and that even could create a barrier. I also think that speaking up when it's time, speaking up and standing with us is important, because when a vicious attacks like that happens, I actually live close to where the attack last year happened, and you feel isolated, you feel like just targeted, right? And in those times, we want to see the community that care for us stand out and stand with us. And
I would just like to add something that the same feeling that Ali has in his mind, I felt the same when the incident happened. And my in-laws been calling London home for half a century now, over half a century. And the same thinking went into my mind that whether my mom or my dad, they are going out and they're just wearing their ethnic wear, would that make them a target? But at the same time, it didn't stop me or it didn't stop us living our life. This is our home. We are all in it together, right? And at the same time, when I received the messages of support from my Fanshawe family, that meant a whole lot. College was closed. We were in the pandemic. And from the people who I worked 6 years ago, 7 years ago in the beginning, they reached out, they got my email, they got my cell phone number, and they reached out to us and they let me know that they are with me. That meant a whole lot. So instead of having that fearfulness or the negative feeling in me, I just got back on my feet and I said, look at this. There's people who performed those terrible acts of hatred, and then there's my community who's with me. And you've seen it after the march happened, the people who gathered at the Islamic cemetery as well. So that just showed that there's only a few bad people, and the majority of us are good, who are practicing our faith, our cultures, and we all wanted to live in harmony in the broader community.
Can I add something
Absolutely.
from a non-Islamic perspective? But I am an ally. And I think you all made a very good point to that. We all think that that's not going to happen to me, or this is not going to happen, or that happens to someone else or somewhere else. And then when it occurred right here in London, and both of you stated in the neighborhood where you live, then it becomes a very close reality and it becomes part of your life. And it really shook up the whole London community at the time. And it was one of the factors that led me to think as well, Memoona, like you said earlier, I need to step up and do something more to prevent things from like this from happening again.
That's right. Just to add one more thing, aside of the incident, but the other thing about sometimes people, I wouldn't call it Islamophobic, but it's like a systemic thing against Muslims, especially when it comes to their names, to their looking. So for example, I have a lot of friends, obviously, and almost all of them have Arab names, which most likely would be Muhammad, Abdullah, these names. In a lot of cases, from these friends, they would need to change their or shorten their name when applying to a job, when going for an interview, just because a matter of fact that it would increase their chance of having Mo instead of Muhammad on their resume. It would increase the chance of getting the interview. Because, and I think this should change, and the best way to change it is if people stop looking at names or the outside shape of the human being, and they start looking at their traits, at how they behave, what they do as the person himself, right? And I think that's a starting point that we can work on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I just add quickly that I have a varied diversity of friends and acquaintances, and I've had people from Latin American, community that were targets of Islamophobic attacks, hate attacks, because that's where it comes from. Racism, Islamophobia, discrimination a lot of times comes from a place of ignorance. Right? And I think you both mentioned like the fact that we should educate ourselves, right? And it shows that it's a big problem, and it's not just the Muslim community's problem, it's everyone's problem. We gotta deal with it. Thank you. If I may ask, maybe I'll start with you, Ali.
Sure.
What is one important takeaway that you want the community, especially the non-Muslim community, to know about Islam, or a message that you might have?
That's a great question. So Islam, the greatest message that I would give them is Islam is peace. So be peaceful. Don't believe what's going on, what's all the misinformation flying all over the places, that we're not good people. Muslims are terrorists. Muslims does this. Muslims do this. Muslims are bad people. That's not actually true. Every race, every religion, they have good apples, they have bad apples. And don't judge based on what you see online. That's not only about Islamophobia or Islam. It's everything in life. Because now on social media, they always have either this perfect life where they're not missing anything, or on the other hand, they have this darkness of bad things happening, but in reality, life is way bigger than this.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
So,
I always tell my students, think critically. Don't just consume material that comes to you. You got to think critically, you got to unpack it, and you got to decide what to believe and what not to.
that's right.
Thank you so much. Memoona, what do you think?
I totally agree, and that's just in a different way of putting it. Things is just we are not the people or the stereotypes that you see in the media or what news are representing us to be. Islam is a religion of peace, and those who practice Islam are very law-abiding citizens, either here or the countries they are coming from. So no person, be them black or white, rich or poor, Arab or non-Arab, is not better than each other than in piety. That's about it.
And one more thing, Islam, it's about ethics. Like ethics in work, ethics in life, ethics with your neighbor, ethics with how to be a good neighbor, how to be a good employee or employer, being just with other people. And I think in even though we live in 2022 or 2022, we still face a lot of injustice. We still face a lot of discrimination. That is the best way to combat this is by learning about it, and most importantly, teaching our kids about it. Because if I don't learn about something and I'm ignorant, I will pass this ignorance to my children. If I learn about something and teach myself about it, and then teach my kids to respect these things, then they would respect it. That's how we pass from generation to generation. That's what I believe.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well said. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Just to wrap that up, if I can paraphrase, the message I'm getting from both of you is for non-Islamic members to just not be afraid, no judgment, to approach from a place of an open mind, and understanding and learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we all did when we first arrived here in Canada from day one.
Yeah.
We made the effort to learn about the culture, about the language, about the workplace ethics, culture, and everything about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And not to assimilate, but to adapt.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would add communicate with your Islamic
Friends and
friends, neighbors. You can even communicate with them online. Now everything
It's
is
true.
available online, right? So you can always go on forums or even on. So now you can see people going on TikTok and just asking weird questions.
Right.
Yeah, as a matter of fact. So you can approach it the way you want, but at the end of the day, just
Communicate.
Yep.
Just communicate. And there's
It's a key.
multiple platforms to
That's
do
right.
that.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank each of our guests, Mo, Ali, and Memoona, for joining us today. If any of our viewers have thoughts you would like to share or questions that you feel you need to ask, please feel free to reach out to our EDI team via the contact message on the screen. Our email is simply edi@fanshawe.ca. And join us again in November when EDI talks transgender awareness. On behalf of myself, Troy Townsend, and our director, Joseph Pisano, take care of yourselves and each other.